Hello, this is the next page, page 108, problem set, lesson number 18. So the first question, or question number 3, asks you to draw a rhombus and a rectangle below. So as you can tell, I drew a rhombus and a rectangle. So now for problem A, it asked me to draw diagonals and measure their length. So I drew diagonal lines, as you can tell, those crisscrosses. And when I measure their lengths, I'm going to get 2 centimeters for this one and 2 centimeters for that line when we go up and down. And from left to right, I'm going to get my measurements of 4 centimeters and 4 centimeters. Now, looking at my rhombus right here, or diamond, I notice that the measurements are the same. So it is equal in lengths on both sides, top and bottom, side to side. That's what I can tell. So even though I measured it, I noticed that they are the same. Now, looking at my rectangle, I'm going to do the same thing. And remember, a rectangle is considered a parallelogram, so all of its angles are going to be 90 degrees. Knowing that it's 90 degrees, I know that these measurements are also going to be the same. So when I measured across, I got 4 centimeters. And when I measured across again, I also got 4 centimeters. The lengths are exactly the same. Okay? So now I'm going to move on to B, and for B, it asked me to measure length, so that's what I did. I measured the lengths 4 centimeters, 4 centimeters, so I did B already. Excuse me. And it says, from the vertex to intersection point of diagonals, using a marker or crayon, color segments that have the same length. Use a different color for each different length. So they're all the same length, so I didn't change the color. They're all 4 centimeters. Now, for problem 4, list the properties that are shared by all of the rhombuses that you worked with today. So I'm going to tell you what the properties are, reading them one by one so you can hear me. Number 1, rhombuses have 4 straight sides of equal lengths. So right here, this is my rhombus, and they all have the same length. It does not change. 2, opposite sides are parallel. And when we talk about parallel, that means that the lines are the same. So imagine if I were to slide this line down, it is parallel to line across. Same thing over here. This line is parallel to the line across. So they are parallel, and these little arrows marks that they are parallel to each other. So these lines are parallel to these sides right here. And this side is parallel to this side. Okay? Now, next we have diagonals. 3, diagonals are perpendicular bisectors. Diagonals are perpendicular bisectors, meaning that when you bisect these diagonals, they are going to be the same. 2 centimeters, 2 centimeters, 4 centimeters, 4 centimeters. Okay? And lastly, 4, the angles next to each other add up to 180 degrees. So if I were to measure this angle right here and this angle right here, it is going to give me 180 degrees. Okay? Now, next, we have problem B. Problem B says, list the properties that are shared by all of the rectangles that you worked with today. So now we're talking about the rectangle on top, okay? First of all, rectangles have 4 straight sides. I'm going to zoom out because I want you to see the rectangle. Rectangles have 4 straight sides. All of these sides are straight, and they are not slanted or anything alike. They are straight lines, okay? Number 2, opposite sides are parallel and equal in length. So this side right here is parallel to this side right here. And my side, the shorter side, is parallel to the shorter side. They are the same. They are just on the opposite side, but they are the same. Now, next, we have right here, rectangles have 4 right angles. Just like I told you earlier, there are 4 right angles for the rectangle. And lastly, diagonals are equal and bisect each other. So when I cross these and I measure them, 4 centimeters on every single side. Okay? Now, problem C. When can a trapezoid also be called a rhombus? Remember last time we talked about the trapezoid. The trapezoid looks kind of like a, looks like this. I'm going to draw it right here so you guys remember what it looks like. So, oh, that's a terrible drawing. Let me try that again. Okay, so that's the trapezoid. So a trapezoid is also a rhombus when all four sides are the same length. So if this trapezoid had all the same sides and they have the same length, then it would also be called a rhombus. But in this case, not if it looks like that. If it looks more like this one, then that would be called a trapezoid. Okay, problem D. When can a parallelogram also be called a rectangle? A parallelogram and a rectangle are basically the same. So as long as the rectangle has four angles that are equal to 90 degrees, then yes, it is considered a parallelogram. Okay, so for this case, it will be always. A rectangle and parallelogram can be called parallelogram. Okay, problem E. When can a quadrilateral also be called a rhombus? Remember, a quadrilateral has four sides that are equal lengths. So a quadrilateral can also be called a rhombus when all four sides are equal in length. Okay, now we're going to turn to page 109. And on page 109, and this is the homework, so Orion, you can stop here. So page 109, we have used a grid paper to draw. So now I'm going to draw my images, and I'm going to color it in too. So the first one asked me to draw a rhombus with no right angles. So this is how I'm going to draw my rhombus. And there are no right angles. Oh, I should have stopped right there. See, there is no 90 degrees angles at all. Okay, so this one would be obtuse, this one would be acute, this one is obtuse, and this one is acute. So that is my drawing. For B, it asked me to draw a rhombus with four right angles. So a rhombus with four right angles would basically be a square or a rectangle. Okay. Now for problem C, a rectangle with not all sides equal. So a rectangle with not all sides equal. So I'm drawing a rectangle. Okay. And a rectangle, if you notice, these lines are the same, but they are not the same as the side lines. The side lines are shorter. That's what it means by not all sides are equal. And the last one, a rectangle with all sides equal. So a square can sometimes be called a rectangle, which can be confusing. But yes, a rectangle with all sides equal is basically a square. Okay, now I'm going to turn the page and we are going to be on page 110, and that is our last page. Okay, so number 2, I'm going to zoom in. Number 2 says a rhombus has a perimeter of 217 degrees. Oh, sorry, 217 centimeters. What is the length of each side of the rhombus? So I drew a rhombus. It's not perfect, but they all have equal lengths. Okay, so if my perimeter is 217, that means that if I divide 217 by 4, because there are 4 sides, 1, 2, 3, 4, there are 4 sides, then I would get my answer of how much each side is equal to for the length. So I'm going to divide. I know that 4 can go into 5 because 4 times 5 is equal to 20. 21 minus 20 is equal to 1. Bring down my 7. 4 can go into 17 4 times because 4 times 4 is equal to 16. 17 minus 16 is equal to 1. So my remainder is 1 and my denominator is going to be 4. So my final answer is 54 and 1/4 centimeter. Okay, so each side is equal to 54 and 1/4 centimeters. Okay. Number 3, list the properties that all rhombuses share. So number 1, rhombuses have 4 sides of equal lengths. Number 2, opposite sides are congruent. Number 3, opposite sides are parallel. So that's what a rhombus has, all of those properties. A rhombus is a diamond. Okay. Number 4, list the properties that all rectangles share. 1, opposite sides are equal lengths. If it helps, you can draw the picture too. All sides are equal lengths, 2 pairs of parallel sides. So these lines are parallel to these lines, and 4 right angles. Okay, so that is all for today's lesson. Please let me know if you have any questions. I know it's really cool that we're going into shapes.